Hey, what's up to all my Wonder Woman and DC fans out there, and happy holidays. Elliot here from Movie Files, and as I said in my Wonder Woman 1984 spoiler-free review, that I want to come back and break down the spoilers, and that's what we're doing in this video. We're recapping and highlighting all the big moments in the movie. I'm also going to dive deeper into my pros and cons of the film. We're breaking down the Easter eggs, we're talking the post-credit scene, and also I'll be sharing with you all what I would like to see in a Wonder Woman 3, and also I have a very special announcement at the end of this video, so stick around and see what that is. But before we dive into it, again, full spoilers. So if you haven't seen Wonder Woman 1984, check out the movie, check out my non-spoiler review, and then come back and join the conversation in this spoiler discussion. But before we get into it, as you all can see on the screen now, make sure you all are following me on all my other social media accounts like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, which you can find all those links in the description below. If you are new to this channel, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you all can get the alert from when I drop new videos. It would mean a lot to me if you all can like and share this video. It really helps out the channel, but I also really appreciate the support. And in the comments, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking full spoilers of Wonder Woman 1984. So let me know all your pros, your cons, your favorite scenes, your least favorite scenes, your thoughts on the mid-credit scene, your thoughts on a Wonder Woman 3. Let's spoil it all in the comments below. So let's kick things off, recapping and breaking down all the big moments, starting off with the moment I really love, but also have some criticisms with, and that is the return of Themyscira. Now, my criticisms lie within not getting enough Themyscira in this film. I get it. We're going to be getting either a movie or a spin-off TV show on HBO Max exploring the island of Themyscira. I get all that, but I just wish we would have gotten more from it in this film. I know based on the events that take place in Wonder Woman 2017 of her leaving the island and she can't come back, but I would have liked if she maybe would have snuck on the island to get the armor, to get some more life lessons from her mom. I just wish we would have gotten more from it in this film, but we don't get that. But what we do get, and that's where my pros lie, is we get the Themyscira opening up the film. We see young Diana taking her part in the Amazonian competitions, which was just so cool. Again, I just love being on the island. I love these badass Amazonian women. I just love the look, the feel, the score, all that stuff works for me. And we see Diana's winning the competition. She gets a little cocky. She falls off her horse. She improvises, but she kind of takes a shortcut to win the competition, but she's cut short by her auntie. And this is where the love and nature of this film, the truth, the importance of truth, the story really kind of takes place, because we get a big moment that follows into the third act of this movie, which again is the importance of truth, but also there are no shortcuts to success. So I love, again, all the life lessons that she gets from her family on the island, and it was just a really cool way to open up the film. I just wish we got more of it in the movie, but as I digress, we move forward to a next big moment in breaking down Wonder Woman saving the day. Now, this also kind of falls in my criticisms, but also my positives, and in my positives, I love seeing Wonder Woman being a superhero. This is, again, what I said in my non-spoiler review is Patty Jenkins paying homage to Superman 1978. We see her doing things like Superman did in regards to doing everyday stuff, saving a cat from a tree. We see Wonder Woman saves a woman from getting hit by a car. A woman getting married falls off a bridge. She saves her. We're seeing our superhero do superhero things other than fighting monsters, saving the world from ending. We get to see them, what they do on a day-to-day basis. So I really love that aspect. That's my pros. My cons in this scene here is all in the mall. Now, I mentioned it in my non-spoiler review. I love that we're in the 80s. I love how Patty injects the 80s into this film. Like, this movie would have played in the 80s. This would have been a blockbuster in the 80s. That's what type of vibe and type of tone we get within this movie. But it's within this mall scene that a couple things don't work for me. Number one, we learn that there is a jewelry that has these black market artifacts in the back of the jewelry. And it's just like, okay, number one, where did they get this from, these artifacts? Who's the big head honcho behind gathering these artifacts, things of that nature. I just wish we would have dove deeper into that. Maybe that's a deleted scene. Maybe it was cut on the editing floor, but I wish we would have learned more about where they found these artifacts. And then jumping to my biggest thing with this, again, I appreciate the cheesy nature, the tongue-in-cheek nature around this film, but as we see Diana taking out these thieves, we got one of the thieves holding a girl over the ledge, and no, don't do it, like all that stuff to me. Just the acting, besides Diana, who I think is great, those actors to me just wasn't doing it for me, right? Again, I get the cheesy nature of it all, but I just didn't like that moment, and her throwing a little girl on a teddy bear, her putting the girl on the horse, all that stuff to me was just too tongue-in-cheek for me. But that's just like little minor things. But again, I wish we would have learned more about the artifacts in that moment, and even the little things of Diana not wanting her identity to be seen as she knocks out the cameras. I get we're in the 80s. There's no cell phones. There still are cameras there, but it's just like the idea of like, you don't want your identity to be seen. You're not the Flash. People can clearly see you, Diana. But as I digress, again, I like Wonder Woman saving people, doing some superhero things, but I just didn't like the execution of that mall scene. But cutting to Diana Prince meeting her new friend, Barbara Minerva, who we know Barbara Minerva, if you all know in the comics, the Cheetah character has been adapted 4 times, and this is Barbara story, and they take some creative liberties on this origins of the character. But before we even get to them meeting each other, I want to go back to Diana going home, and this was a really cool Easter egg for those that saw the original Wonder Woman that came out in 2017, that film. We get to see what she's been up to all these years regarding her relationship with those characters we meet in 2017's Wonder Woman. We see that she's a bridesmaid at Charlie's wedding, which we know Charlie was an ally of Steve Trevor back in 1918. We see that she actually goes to a ship with the elderly version of Etta Candy. So I love those moments that we get with that character, just kind of, again, filling in the gaps of what Wonder Woman's been up to all these years. But as we cut forward, we see that she's working at the Smithsonian Museum, and this is when she meets Barbara. And going back to paying homage, this was a great example of how Patty Jenkins kind of brought in her Selina Kyle of Barbara being this loner. People don't pay attention to her. We see that the person that hired her doesn't even remember what she looks like, so she's being ignored. Again, not only is it a Selina Kyle homage, and we see it a lot in comic book movies, the nerdy character, the character that doesn't get attention, all that stuff, but I just really kind of love that moment. And in particularly, when they meet each other, this is, again, going back to a little bit of my criticisms in regards to backstory. I personally would have enjoyed it more if Barbara and Diana were already friends before the movie takes place, because I think the way this film structures their friendship, as I'll talk about them having their dinner, Diana saving her at the park, but she's getting harassed by that guy. And, you know, they have a couple scenes here and there, but I wish that friendship, it never really felt like a true friendship. Again, they hit it off at the dinner and all that, but I wish they would have already established their friendship. And as the film goes on, we see that friendship just begin to dissolve. So I just wish that the storyline there was just a little bit more impactful in regards to their friendship, already had been established before we start this movie off. But as we kind of move forward, this is when we get the introduction of the MacGuffin of the film, the Dreamstone, which, I'm not going to lie, I'm not the biggest fan of that MacGuffin and just the origins of it. I wish it was a little bit more fleshed out. But before we get into that, this is where we learn that Maxwell Lord is going to become a benefactor of the museum. Diane kind of falls upon, she looks at this Dreamstone, and she kind of mentions to herself, like, where there's rumors of a stone that can you can grant wishes and get your desires that your heart wishes. And this is where we kind of, again, get that kind of cheesy moment in this movie where we see one of the scientists walks by Diana, touches the stone, and says to himself, man, I wish I had a cup of coffee. Conveniently, the coffee appears, but we also see Diana says to herself, oh, well, I wish, we could make wishes of our dreams come true, because if I had a wish, she doesn't say what her wish is, but we all know it's to Steve Trevor to come back. We cut to her apartment. We see that his clock is now sprung up, which means that Steve Trevor is coming back, and we'll talk about the return of Steve Trevor here in a bit. But again, going back to Diana and Barbara, they hit it off at the dinner. We see that Barbara is walking late at night. She gets attacked by a gentleman. Diana saves her, and we get a nice little call back to her saying, oh, it's all about momentum. And we talk about, the character that we're getting that post-credit scene here and later in this video. But it's in this moment that she really is starting to vibe with Diana. We see that she goes back, and I'm speaking of Barbara now, she goes back to the museum. She has that Dreamstone. She kind of does her Wishmaster moment where she says, I wish I could be as cool, as beautiful, and as powerful as Diana, not knowing that Diana is Wonder Woman. So we cut to the next morning, all her wishes are starting to come true. She's starting to get the attention from her male counterparts. She also gets the attention of Maxwell Lord, which this is where we learn his motives. We also get the return of Steve Trevor, which I can't wait to break that down in a second here. But as far as Maxwell Lord go, I really really enjoyed the character. I like the motives of the character. I like that we kind of see he's putting on this front. He's the commercial man. He does all that stuff. He's this famous guy. And I know some people compare him to Trump-like character, but I really kind of looked at him, I said it in my non-spoiler review, more as a Gene Hackman playing Lex Luthor in Superman. Also with a little Gordon Gekko from Wall Street, kind of that amalgamation of that character. But we see that it's all a front. We go to his office. There's no businesses happening. There's no phone calls. It's an empty office. We see that one of his associates that gave him money, I believe the character's name was Simon, he wants his money back. He calls Maxwell Lord a loser. We see that Maxwell Lord's son is in the office. He hears that. And this is, again, where the character becomes a little bit multi-dimensional. You get a little bit more of his backstory and it kind of humanizes him. The child actor was fine. He was okay. I wish there was a little bit more meat on the bone with that character. I wish we would have maybe met his mother, who is his mother's boyfriend. But of course, his movie's 2.5 hours. We don't need all of that stuff. But I wish we would have learned more from that character. I wish it was a little bit more fleshed out. But he says to his son, and this is his main motives in the movie, he wants to prove that his dad isn't a loser. So I love that dimension. Love, again, the son actor was fine. I get the point of the character. It resonates, but I just wish it was a little bit more to his son's character. But nonetheless, like I said, the biggest thing is we learn his motives, which is just proving his son that he isn't a loser. We fast forward to this party that Maxwell Lord is hosting, where we see that now Barbara is embracing her beautifulness and has this nice little dress on. We see that Wonder Woman Diane is looking beautiful. They're both looking beautiful, I will say, but we see that this man is kind of pestering Diana. He's trying to get her attention. He says a line to her that we get in 2017's Wonder Woman, which is, I wish we had more time. I thought this moment here was kind of funny because she says to him, why did you say that? Why would you say it to me? Kind of reminded me of BVS, which we also get a call back to BVS with Hans Zimmer's score later in the film. But she realizes as the camera kind of pans around a couple times that she sees Steve Trevor. So breaking down the return of Steve Trevor, I like the idea that it's this Dreamstone. You can make a wish. They bring her back to life. All that stuff is cool, but it's the execution that doesn't sit well with me. And it all boils down to that gentleman, that guy, that random guy who I don't even know if we get a character's name from that character. Why that character? Why did Steve Trevor go into his body? Me personally, and maybe this was left on the cutting room floor, it would have been maybe interesting if him and Diana already have established some relationship. It would have been cool if he worked at the Smithsonian, he worked at the museum. We know that Diana hasn't fallen in love. She hasn't had a boyfriend or a girlfriend. She hasn't fallen in love with anyone since Steve Trevor's death. But it would have been interesting if she maybe had some feelings for him if he worked at the Smithsonian, and maybe that's why Steve Trevor's soul, his essence, goes into his body, because she has some feelings for this guy that she already knows. Or hell, he could have been he could have been a descendant of Steve Trevor. He could have been a pilot. He could have been something other than just a random dude. I just don't like the execution of how they give Steve Trevor this random vessel. This guy doesn't remember what happened these last few days. He doesn't even remember sleeping with Wonder Woman herself. But let me know what you all thought of the execution and the explanation, or I should say lack of explanation, of how he returned and why they chose his body. But as we move forward, we see that Maxwell Lord has seduced Barbara now. He gets her permission, per se, to get the stone from him or from her. And that's what we see. He goes back to his office, and his wish is to make himself into the Dreamstone, a la, for my horror fans out there, 1997's Wishmaster, which had a bunch of sequels, but that's what kind of reminded me of that moment. We move forward and get the Diana and Steve kind of rekindling their love, but also we get a big moment in the lore of Wonder Woman, and that is the invisible jet. So we see Wonder Woman and Steve, they're walking in Washington, D.C. They go back to his place. Again, they make love. She's making love to this random vessel. They wake up in the morning. They just want to do nothing but spend time together, but they realize, how did you get here, Steve? Let's go on this hunt. Let's go on this journey of the story to figure out about this stone. We cut to learning more about the stone, and we learn that Maxwell Lord was the one behind the thievery, the thieves coming in at the beginning of the movie. We learn that the wishes have consequences. We see that Diana is starting to lose her powers based on Barbara making the wish have to be as powerful as Diana. We also are starting to see the violent nature of Barbara, her beating up the guy that assaulted her later in the movie, which that scene was really unique and nice. I think there was more to that scene, because if I'm not mistaken, if you all follow a lot of the behind the scenes of this film, there was like her jumping on like balconies and climbing up walls. So I think there was a little bit more to that montage of her kind of learning her powers. We see her at the gym working out and all that stuff. She breaks her refrigerator door, but I think there was more of Barbara making that transformation into Cheetah. But nonetheless, we kind of cut to seeing that the villains are now kind of taking form. We're seeing Maxwell starting to lose a little bit of his humanity. Again, I mentioned we're seeing that Barbara is doing the same. But we cut to Diana and Steve breaks into Maxwell Lord's office, and this is where we learn that we see that the god of mischief has kind of put a spell on this stone. I would have loved to have gotten like a history lesson like we got in the first Wonder Woman regarding her mother, telling her the story of the gods being killed off. I would have loved to have seen the god of mischief putting the spell on this. I wish we would have gotten more from that. I wish there was actually a god in this film besides Wonder Woman herself. But nonetheless, they find out that if you make a wish, it takes a toll on you. You lose something very important to you. And we all know what that means to Diana, which is she's losing her powers based on the wishes she made to have Steve come back. They realize that Maxwell Lord is now in the Middle East, and we see him kind of, we see that they sneak on to the Smithsonian, which to me, it made no sense as those jets were working, because normally, if I'm not mistaken, those jets are not operational. But either way, we see Steve Trevor. He learns how to fly the jet, and then we get a really kind of cool Easter egg of her getting her invisible jet, which is very famous in the comics. They took a little bit of a creative liberties of how explaining the invisible jet, because it was actually from her mother that she got the jet in the comics, and there's different iterations of the invisible jet. But we see that she has her power. She's been working on it she hasn't been able to make something invisible in 50 years, which was a coffee cup, which she couldn't find. But I wonder if we'll get more of her making things invisible in the future films. But nonetheless, they make the jet invisible. We get a nice little moment between those two characters. We get the fireworks scene, and again, just a really cool moment, and we get a nice little Easter egg of something else in the Wonder Woman mythology come to life on the big screen. But cut to Maxwell Lord's plan, and this again where Pedro Pascal is just really giving you a good performance in my opinion. We see that he's making deals with this foreign leader overseas who his wish is he wants to get all his enemies off his land. In return, Maxwell Lord wants his oil, which he's already sold his oil, so he's going to take his military instead. And we see a big action set piece take place. Now this film doesn't have that much action, which I was okay with, because the first Wonder Woman didn't have that much action as well. It's just a really cool, really awesome, empowering film, and this is kind of the same thing in this film. But we get like maybe I think like literally 5 scenes. This was one of them in regards to action. The scene where Diana and Steve they actually find Maxwell Lord on the desert. And also, I should say before we get that, this is where Diana and also Barbara's like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to, because they come to the idea that if you kill the host, you can destroy the dreams, or you can rescind your dreams. And Barbara doesn't want to take place in that because she's powerful now, right? She's getting noticed. But also Diana doesn't want to kill or take out the Maxwell Lord, because that means she's going to lose Trevor. And I love that duality. I love that conflict in Diana. She's so powerful. She's all about truth, but she just wants to have this one thing. So that really humanizes this god, right? I love that moment from Diana. But going back to the action set piece, we see her, which again, playing up to the cheese, the whole running and head tilting plays into the 80s and homage to the 80s. It just looks really weird in 2020. So the scene was just a little wonky to me. We see the lasso doing the lasso in this movie was like doing all types of breaking logic. Like I love Cap's shield, and sometimes Cap's shield in the Marvel movies don't make that much sense how he's able to do certain things. But the lasso, she can grab things. She can grab things magically, like Spider-Man when he's, spider webbing and doesn't connect anything. It's just like sometimes you got to put your logic behind when you're watching superhero films. But nonetheless, it's in this scene where she realizes that she's now vulnerable. She's bleeding. She's losing her powers. She saves these kids. Again, we see Wonder Woman being such a kindful, caring superhero. She doesn't want anyone to die, right? We see that multiple times in this film, but she saves these kids from getting hit by a car, but she's realizing that she is now vulnerable. So now Cut to her being vulnerable, she needs some armor, and that's where we get the introduction of the Golden Eagle armor. Now, I will say it looks awesome. We all know from the comics this comes from the Kingdom Come run, but they have their own kind of interpretation of how it's introduced in this world. I like the look of it. I like what it stands for, but the execution was a little bit mishandled in my opinion. This is where we learn that Asteria, this Amazonian warrior, protected the Amazonians while they were going to the island Themyscira. We see that she's fighting off, I think they were Spartans if I'm not mistaken. The moment's okay. I wish it would have been more badass. Obviously, they didn't want to reveal who the character was till later on in the movie, but I wish we would have saw her fighting the Spartans. That would have been really cool, but we see her just protecting herself, and as they're running off, which doesn't really make that much sense. They would just focus on her where there could have been getting the other, Amazonians, but nonetheless, I just wish that scene, because we also see the lasso playing into where the lasso can do anything, right? Not only can it break logic of, gravity and things of that nature, but we see that Steve, not only can it reveal the truth, but also it gives him a history lesson of that moment. But again, the introduction of lasso, it was marketed a lot. We only see it in use in the third act, and I just wish it was a much more executed, more fleshed out moment in the movie. And obviously, right now, my only use of it in this film is to sell toys. But nonetheless, back to the plot. Again, we see that Maxwell Lord, as he's giving people these wishes, is really declining his health. We see that he makes a wish to go visit the president. Kind of a sloppy moment. He wants to reach all the people in the world, so conveniently they have this device that can reach out to all the people in the world, and he can touch all the people in the world. I'm just thinking to myself, that is just such a cheesy kind of cliche superhero moment, where very similar to, I'll just use the Avengers for example. We have all these Jatari aliens on Earth, and we just have to take out the mothership, and it takes out all the aliens. Very similar here. I'll just go to this device, this satellite station, and I can reach everybody in the world. And once we take out the device, it disconnects. I'm just like, okay, cliche superhero moment nonetheless. But as we kind of move forward, we cut to another battle sequence, which is the White House battle, where we see, again, at this point, the Cold War is begun by Maxwell Lord. We see that Barbara is now having the full strength of the Cheetah. She's embracing her strength. She's able to beat Wonder Woman, which again, I love seeing that vulnerability side of Diana. She looks distraught. She looks beaten up, which Gal Gadot was so great in those moments. And she tells, Steve tries to fight her. He's not able to do so. But it's in this moment that now Barbara, who is confident, she wants another wish of hers. She now is making a wish to Maxwell Lord, which is to be a primal, to have more strength, apex predator. And that's when she becomes a cheetah. That to me, okay, she studies animals. She mentions earlier in the film that Diana has cheetah print shoes on, but like the correlation of her being an apex predator, meaning that she's going to become a cheetah. Sure, I wish that was a little bit more executed, but nonetheless, like I said, what we get in this moment is seeing that Diana is defeated and she's beaten up by Barbara. But it's in this moment that, again, we talk about the strength of Diana. We understand the power of this character. She realizes that she has to let Steve go, which was an emotional moment. They say their goodbyes. He mentions to her, I'm going to love you no matter where I am. She has to rescind her wish. But it's in this moment, speaking of powerful moments, and this I said in my non-spoiler review, my No Man's Land is one of my favorite comic book movie, superhero movie moments ever. This film doesn't really hit those peaks, but it does its best in doing so. And this is one of the moments as she says her goodbye to Steve. She's running in Washington, D.C. She's gaining her strength back. She lassos a cloud. Again, just disbelief. She goes in the air, and I thought this moment was pretty cool. She gets the ability to fly, which, again, going back to the homage of Superman, in particularly 2013, my favorite Superman, Henry Cavill, which I would love to see Patty Jenkins directed a Superman movie, but she's taking flight. She learned something from Steve earlier in that invisible jet scene to take flight, how to fly. I love that moment as she's riding the sky, she's riding the lasso with the thunder. All that stuff is really powerful, really great to see the new abilities of Diana Prince, aka Wonder Woman, gaining some new abilities in this film. As we wrap up, we get to Wonder Woman versus Cheetah. It doesn't work for me. Now, a couple things. Again, I wish that the golden armor moment was cool when she was holding her back and Cheetah was trying to break into armor. That stuff's cool. The look of it's really awesome. But the battle sequence was a little bit short-whelmed for me in regards to, number one, I would have loved to have seen the transformation of Barbara turning into the Cheetah. For my horror fans, my practical effects fans, it would have been so cool to see her like transform into the Cheetah. We don't get that. It's off camera. But then in regards to Cheetah, this is Wonder Woman's one of her greatest foes. I just felt like we didn't get a lot from the actual Cheetah. And in that fight sequences, it was dark. The CGI didn't look that great. You know, she executes her and all that stuff. I just wish there was more within that moment. I wish it was multiple fights as her being Cheetah. I wish we would have saw the transformation. I wish the golden armor would have been used more. So just that moment to me was a little bit of a letdown. But in particularly, you know, we get Cheetah is more or less the secondary villain in this film. The Maxwell lore is the villain with the mind that can mentally break Diana in a sense, and we have the muscle, the physical person that can affect Diana, which was Cheetah. But I hope we get more from Cheetah, because again, she's one of Diana's Wonder Woman's most greatest foes. So I hope that we get more from that character. I just feel like the Cheetah Barbara I like, Cheetah I didn't like, and I wish we would have gotten more from that character. But as we wrap up, we get this really emotional conclusion, and this is where Patty Jenkins said that she wished that the first Wonder Woman was more emotional, more personal. We get that in this film, because we get that Hans Zimmer score. Again, I mentioned it earlier with the BVS callback. We get that Bruce Wayne nightmare sequence, or I should say the Bruce Wayne sequence of his dream sequence of the music playing. We see the lasso has hold of Maxwell Lord's foot. We learn of his past, how he was raised. He was picked fun of, made fun of. And again, this humanizes the character. He's not just a straight up villain. He wants to make his son proud, but as the film goes on, the stone, I assume, makes him corrupt, makes him evil because of greed. And we see the backstory from him. We get that great score. Wonder Woman has an incredible speech to the world, and everyone rescinds their wish. We see people that wish their loved ones to die, people wish to be famous. All their wishes are going away. Again, cliche, you're able to stop the machine and all the people in the world, because at this point the world's turned into chaos. We got World War III happening at this point in this film, but she's able to stop all that. She has a great moment. She has a great speech. We wrap up the film. Diana runs into the mystery guy, who I'm thinking, is she going to date this guy? But they have their little moments of him in his clothes. It's Christmas time. Diana has a nice little speech to end the film again about humanity and truth being so important. We see she, flies up in the sky again, very, again, homage to Superman. We wrap up the movie. We get a mid-credit scene. It is revealed that Asteria is still alive, and it is played by the one and only Linda Carter. I love that moment. I love the scene of her saving the girl, the baby on the pillar. If we will get see Linda Carter in future Wonder Woman projects, Wonder Woman 3, we see her in the Themyscira series. I would love that. If we don't get her, that's fine. I love that we get that kind of, tongue-in-cheek winking of the camera of Linda Carter, because she's the OG. She started it all. So I love that Patty Jenkins brought her into the mix. And I love that scene. But again, if we get more from that character, I would love it. So those were all my breakdowns of the big moments, my pros, my cons, more in depth. Wrapping up this video with my Wonder Woman 3 idea. Will we see Steve Trevor in Wonder Woman 3? Now, if you all have been reading the news, Patty Jenkins says she doesn't know if she's going to come back from Wonder Woman 3 if it's not being played at the theaters. Gal Gadot says she might not return if Patty doesn't come back, and of course the story's not good. So there's all this stuff going on. This is just another way of these wonderful, powerful, intelligent women working the system, which they should do, which is give me my money. We'll come back if it's playing in theaters, if we have a good story, if we have something to tell, which Patty Jenkins says she's already started the script for Wonder Woman 3, which brings me to Steve Trevor. Will we get Steve Trevor returning in a Wonder Woman 3, whether it be, which I'm going to talk about here, an alternate version of Steve Trevor from the Flash movie, something to think about. But let me know if you guys would like to see Steve Trevor in a Wonder Woman 3 and your ideas of how you can bring him into the mix. Wonder Woman 3, Patty Jenkins says she would bring her into the present day, which means we may get some team-up moments in Wonder Woman 3. I would love to see Wonder Woman and Superman in one movie, because I would love to see Patty Jenkins direct Henry Cavill's Superman, so that would be cool. Wonder Woman and, other female great characters in the DC lore. Wonder Woman and Shazam, Wonder Woman versus Black Adam. There's so much to team up with in this film. And then also, in regards to a Wonder Woman film, after what we get in 2022's Flash movie, can we see Wonder Woman 3 having the afterfacts of alternate realities? We have, again, Steve Trevor gets into the mix. We have an alternate version of this, how you can bring Cheetah into the mix. We get another version of Cheetah fully embracing the character, because, again, Kristen Wiig, she rescinded her wish, which means she's no longer the Cheetah, or does she still have some remnants of the Cheetah because she transformed into something else? We know Maxwell Lord, he rescinded a wish, but does that mean the stone is still in him? Can he get an alternate version in the Flash movie in Wonder Woman 3 that he comes back? So there is a lot of things that you can bring alternate characters in a Wonder Woman 3 based on what happens in the Flash movie. So that's my thoughts on the Wonder Woman 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And then wrapping this up as far as special announcements. In the summer, in the spring of this year, when the pandemic hit, I did a lot of movie watch-alongs. I still do watch-alongs on this channel for like TV shows, but I want to bring back watch-alongs, especially with HBO Max announcing that 17 movies will be playing on streaming services. So I'm going to be doing a lot of watch-alongs for those films, but I want to do a Wonder Woman 84 watch-along coming soon. I haven't nailed down the date yet. I want to probably get some guests, so keep an eye on my community tab on YouTube so you guys can know when we're going to do the watch-along. Keep an eye on my Instagram, my Twitter, so you can know when we're going to do it, who's going to be involved. So I will be doing a watch along. I'm probably thinking, I'm pre-recording this video to release on Christmas. Again, happy holidays. I'm probably thinking about doing it next Friday. So it's a full week that everyone can see the movie, and then we can all come together as a community and watch together, talk about the pros, the cons, things of that nature. So right now I'm thinking a week from today, we'll do a Wonder Woman watch along. But again, keep an eye out for that date from the community tab and on my social media accounts so you all know when exactly we'll be doing it and having a good time watching the movie. So again, comment your thoughts on this film, like, share, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you don't miss any of my other content. I know this is a long one, but I love superhero movies. I love Wonder Woman, so I appreciate you guys sticking around to the end of this video. Hope you're having a great holiday. Hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you on the next video.